Hey y'all. So as promised, I said I was going to make a video when I got back from basic, and here it is. By the haircut, you can see that I've been to basic, and if you look at the dates, you can probably gather that I did not complete it. So a lot to go over in this video. So first of all, just to explain why I'm home, there was an admin paperwork issue where I needed to come home to take care of it, something with the dates of my marriage and divorce and stuff like that. But not a super big deal. I just need to come home, fix that issue, and then end up going back. I did complete reception, so I did everything I need to do before basic. So I'm ready to go whenever. So that being said, there's a lot going on that will potentially change what I just said. So I did go to Fort Leonard Wood for prior service basic training. If you haven't been watching my other videos, prior service basic training is a 6-week program designed for obviously prior service people. Either if you've been out for over 3 years, or if you're Navy or Air Force, even with no break in service, you have to go through that. Now, rumor has it that the class that just started, the one I was supposed to start on, is going to be the last prior service basic. So all these plans I had to kind of get information out there about prior service basic, because there is not really any, kind of fizzled away. It doesn't matter anymore because the program's going away. Therefore, me making videos on it doesn't really matter. However, I was still able to go through reception as a prior service at Fort Leonard Wood. So I think my experience will be valuable for other people going prior service. Now, I don't know what the next policy will be. There's nothing official about it. There's a lot of rumors going around. So just know that whatever you find on the internet, as of today is March 14th, as I know, there's nothing official. So if you hear anyone say that prior service basic has gone away and you no longer have to do it, that's not official. Or if you hear the opposite, if you hear prior service basic is going away, so you'll have to do the full 10-week basic, that's also not official. So take what you read on the internet with a grain of salt. Again, that's today. Tomorrow, there could be official word, but as of right now, there isn't anything official. So what does that mean for me? I don't really know. So I plan to. Well, so my paperwork issues should get resolved pretty quickly. Hopefully this week I'll have everything resolved. I can go back. I don't expect to have to do reception again because I've done it all already. But it's the military, so who knows? A lot of things don't make sense. So then, will I need to go back to the full 10-week basic? Maybe. I don't know. It's being worked on right now. So some people are looking into it for me, and I'm kind of just gonna be in a holding pattern until official word comes. And so whatever that official word is, then I'll know at that point what I need to do. But chances are I'll be required to do the full 10-week basic, which sort of sucks. But actually being there and seeing how things went doesn't seem all that bad. So now let's talk about my experience. It was not what I expected. I'll say that. I have done, again, I mentioned this in previous videos, but I'm a prior Marine. So I went through Marine Corps boot camp back in 2002. I did join the National Guard after, so I do have some experience with the Army. National Guard I was in for 4 years, but I didn't have to go through basic the first time I joined. But since it was a 5-year break in service, I had to go this time. So I was familiar with the Army ways and knew a lot of the Army information, knew about the ranks, uniforms, stuff like that. So that helped a little bit. But again, I had never been through Army basic, so I didn't really know exactly what to expect. I just figured it would be similar to Marine Corps boot camp. It was not. So I flew into St. Louis, took a bus over to Fort Leonard Wood. So the way that worked is, I went to the hotel, the MEPS hotel, the night before. This was Sunday night, 25th, and spent the night there. Woke up early in the morning to go to MEPS. and went to MEPS. Did all like the final stuff. What did I even have to do at MEPS? I can't even remember now. Just some final shipping paperwork. I think had like a final interview. It wasn't a whole lot. I figured we'd do a breathalyzer and a drug test, and we didn't. I don't think. I think the females had to do a pregnancy test. But maybe a final. Oh yeah, we had to do a final medical screening. Height and weight. We had to do height and weight and final medical screening. I think that was the big things, and then just some paperwork stuff. So then we shipped. We were taken to the airport from there. If you're close to whatever base you're doing basic at, you might just be driven straight there. But I had to fly, so we were taken to the Atlanta airport. Then flew to St. Louis airport. From there, we were told to eat before going to the USO office because we weren't going to be eating dinner once we arrived at Fort Leonard Wood. So they said eat beforehand because you're not going to be eating the rest of the night. So we did that. We landed. There was 3 of us that were going together. We were all prior service, an Air Force guy, and then another a guy that was in my RSP unit that I knew I was going with. So it was us 3. All 3 of us were prior service, and so we landed. We ate dinner, and then we went to the USO office there in St. Louis. From there, I think this was around 6 p.m., 1800, and the bus was leaving at 18:30. So we had about 30 minutes to wait, which was cool because there was people that were there for like 8 hours waiting, because that was the first bus, was going at 18:30. So time came, we got on the bus. It was funny. So the bus was supposed to be there at 18:30, so like 18:20, 18:25, they told us all to go line up outside. And the bus didn't end up showing up till like 30 minutes later, until like 7, and it was cold. So we were just sitting out there in the cold waiting, but that was more of that to come. Anyways, we got on the bus, and we were all talking, like some of the prior service, because the bus was about half prior service and half just regular privates, because they only run this prior service basic once every 3 months. So it's just like big groups of prior service coming when they go to run this. So yeah, again, the bus is about half prior service. When we were talking to some of the, like we were kind of excited about it. We've been through it before. We know what to expect. We weren't really scared of anything. And we were talking to the new guys who've never done it before about what to expect and stuff like that. And I was thinking like Marine Corps boot camp. And I was telling them like, yeah, we're going to pull up. There's going to be like drill sergeants in your face, screaming at you and stuff like that, which ended up being wrong. But I'll get to that in a second. So it was about a 2-hour drive to, maybe an hour and a half drive to the base from the airport. We finally got there. Finally drove on base. Bus got real quiet at that point. And we pulled up to the reception building. Now, when I went through Marine boot camp, the building that we showed up to, I mean, this was a big deal. It was symbolic, traditional, and intimidating. Just downright intimidating. You pull up to the building. There's like 6 or 7 drill instructors outside waiting for you. There's the yellow footprints that you see everything about. There's a big Eagle Globe and Anchor thing on the door. It's like it's a sight. This was different. We pulled up to a dark building. It doesn't look like anyone was even there. No one was waiting outside. There were no drill sergeants outside. We pulled up to this building, and the bus driver got out and walked into the building. And we were sitting there. It was still quiet. We waited there for like a minute, and then I started thinking like, oh, I know. They're trying to like build this up. They're trying to like have us wait here, just like build up this anxiety and anticipation. And then another couple minutes went by, and I was like, you know what? That's not it. Like, this is too long. I think they just weren't ready for us. So finally, after about 5 minutes, one drill sergeant walked out of the building, just kind of like casually made his way to the bus, stepped on the bus, and was like, all right, hey guys, so who's prior service here? Yeah, we raised our hands. He said, all right, you guys can go ahead and get off the bus and go like line up over there. And then when they're gone, then the rest of you guys can get up and line up over there. I was like, hold on a second. That's it? You're not going to yell? You're not going to scream? You're not going to have us trample over each other getting off the bus? Like, that's it? Seriously? And so anyways, we got off the bus, and prior service guys went into the building first. And the drill sergeant just wanted to talk to us first and just say, like, hey, I'm not going to treat you guys like crap. You guys have done this before. So just make sure you guys tuck your shirts in, because I'm going to tell them the same. So I want you guys to kind of already be ahead of the game, so that you guys look like you're already like on top of things. And so yeah, we did that. And then he brought the privates in, and we sat separately. So there was like a whole bunch of benches in this building. And so this building, or this room really, is where we spend most of the time in for the next week. Or 2 weeks in my case. Yeah, we went and there was like 4 sections of benches, basically. There was some walkways in between that made sort of like a plus sign, I guess you could say. And there's like these rows of benches. There was a set of rows of benches in the front left, back left, front right, and back right. So privates went into the front left quadrant, and we went into the rear left quadrant behind them. Then a couple hours of just paperwork. He went over some documents we had to fill out, and we filled them out. We had to take out all the stuff that we brought out of our bags, and he just kind of looked through and make sure that we didn't have any like knives or anything like that we weren't supposed to bring. It wasn't a very thorough inspection, but just kind of a quick glance over for anything that we brought. Then, I should grab. I wrote a letter home. I also took notes, everything that happened the first day. But anyway, I'll just do a brief overview. I might leave some things out, but so yeah, the first day, and then so after that paperwork, right? I think this is about it, anyways. I think I remember everything. A bunch of paperwork. We got to call home just to say that we arrived. So we did that, and then we went over to the uniform issuing place, and we got our PT gear, which is just our black shorts, black pants, black shirt, the Army, long sleeve shirt, jacket. I think we got gloves, a hat. We got some towels and washcloths, a laundry bag, a few other random things, but mostly it was just the PT uniform that we got. Then from there we had to bring, the bag that we brought, plus the laundry bag full of the stuff that we got, and we were brought over to the barracks. This was probably about 1 a.m, and brought to the barracks, and they said, "Okay, go to bed." They issued sheets and some books, like knowledge books for us, and said, "Go to sleep," which is surprising to me. I didn't think we were going to sleep at all. I thought we were going to be up the entire first night. I thought we were going to get haircuts. I thought we were going to do everything overnight. That's how it was for Marines, but they let us sleep, which I was surprised. So yeah, that was about 1, and then about maybe 2:30 to 3, there was another group that came in, and they were looking for beds and had their flashlights and woke all of us up and stuff like that. So didn't really end up getting any sleep, maybe an hour or 2 of sleep, and then I think we had to get up at 4 for breakfast. So we got up at 4. We were in our PT uniform from that point on, well, at least the next couple of days, and had to go everywhere in that together. So we were out of civilian clothes, still had our hair. We went to go eat breakfast, and then we were in day 1 processing. So there are 3 days there's this 3-day schedule for in processing. First day is a bunch of stuff. There's haircuts, blood draw, dental, initial uniform issue, things like that. Like I think vision, it might be day 2 or something like that. Shots is day 3. So there's a schedule to get everything done, and admin stuff, which is where I got held up. So yeah, we're on day 1. We got our haircuts pretty early on. We got an Eagle cash card, they call it. It's basically a debit card or something like that. They preload $350 on it. And you use that for any spending you need to do throughout your time at basic. So they pick it anywhere on post, the PX and all that stuff. So yeah, I'll get to that later. anytime that we weren't doing anything, like if we were in between processing things, we would sit on the same benches that we sat on when I was talking about with the four quadrants. That was what they called the main lobby. Again, this is Fort Leonard Wood. Not every reception building is going to be set up exactly the same, obviously. But so in between processing stations, before we were told to do the next thing, we would go sit on these benches and read our the blue book, they call it. It's just Army knowledge, basically. Basic Army knowledge that you need to have memorized or have knowledge of before you end up shipping to basic. Now, the way that it was set up here at Leonard Wood was there's two reception companies. There's Alpha and Bravo. I was in Bravo, but once I learned more about how the companies were set up, I'm kind of surprised I was in Bravo because it seemed like I would fit better in Alpha. But anyways, what Bravo is for people doing OSUT. If you don't know what that is, it's OSUT, One Station Unit Training, which basically means that you're doing basic and AIT all in one go. So the same drill sergeants will stay with you all the way through AIT. You'll stay in the same buildings. Everything's the same all the way straight through AIT. So at Leonard Wood, it was a big one for NPs, 31 Bravos. But all other MOSs have it at like Benning, infantry, I think is OSUT, stuff like that. So Bravo is for OSUT people. I was not OSUT, so I don't know why I was in Bravo. That's why I was saying that. An Alpha company is for people who are doing just BCT and then going somewhere else for their AIT. I think just because there's a lot more people doing OSUT, so Bravo company is bigger. Maybe the prior service guys just went to Bravo just because they have more staff for Bravo. I don't know. But just FYI, if you're going to OSUT at Fort Leonard Wood, then you'll probably be in Bravo. If they do away prior service basic and you're going to Leonard Wood just for BCT, you'll probably be in Alpha. That's how it is right now. They said it wasn't always like that, so it could change. But it doesn't really matter anyways. It's all the same. Where was I? 3 days of it in processing. We sit on the benches and read our books in between when we're not doing anything. Right. I know where I was going with that. So Bravo Company, because they're OSUT, they wanted to give Bravo Company a little bit more time for in processing. Because they're going to be there for a little longer. They want to make sure everyone's all set, ready to go before they ship. So they give Bravo Company 7 to 10 days. So basically they schedule it so that you show up to reception 7 to 10 days before your basic starts. Whereas Alpha Company, since they're just doing BCT, they give them about 3 to 4 days. You'll show up to reception 3 to 4 days before your actual basic training ship date. Because I was Bravo Company, I showed up 7 days prior. Some of the people there in Bravo were there for 2 weeks in reception, or even longer for some people who got held back for some things. Now processing takes 3 days. If that, it could fit into 2 days. Just shots are scheduled for the third day, so you could be done with everything else and then show up the third day and only have shots to do, and you're done. Which is pretty much how it was for me, how it was for a lot of people actually. If there's no holdups for you, if you don't have extra medical issues come up or had any admin issues come up, you'll be done the morning of the third day. So what do you do for the rest of the 4 days? If you're there for OSUT and you're there for 7 to 10 days, what do you do for the rest of the time there? Well, you sit. That's it. You wake up in the morning, you wake up at 4, you go to breakfast around 5:30, and you sit until lunch. You stare at your blue book, because you've been done reading it for like 3 days now. You just stare at your blue book, so it looks like you're doing something, and you wait till lunchtime. And lunchtime comes, 11:30 comes, you all stand up, you walk down to the chow, the DFAC, you eat lunch, and you come back and you sit. And you look at your watch, you wait till 16:30, you stand up, and you go to dinner, you come back and you sit. And you just wait around for the drill sergeant to say you can go back to the barracks, and then you go back to the barracks and go to sleep. That's the rest of your time there. That's the rest of your time there. So if you're there for 2 weeks, then rip in pieces. What else is there to know? Okay, reception is very separate from basic training. The drill sergeants that you have at reception are not, I'm not going to say they're not real drill sergeants. They're real drill sergeants, but they're not going to treat you the same way that the drill sergeants will treat you when you get to basic. It was surprising how relaxed they were at basic. Not like cringeworthily relaxed, but I think what bothered me most is that they didn't even attempt to teach the privates anything. They wanted to save all that for when you get to basic, and they didn't teach them anything. They didn't teach them how to write base. They didn't teach them a proper formation. You get in lines. We were in boxes basically, but we never had a platoon sergeant out there, so we didn't really have an official formation. We didn't march anywhere. Things were not explained very well to us. So one example of this, and this is one example to show the broader spectrum. So if you kind of keep this one example in your mind and like apply it to everything else, you'll get a good idea of what I'm talking about. And so this example was one morning we were woken up at 4. Oh yeah, I'll explain the waking up. It's going to be a long video, so I apologize for that. It already is. We were woken up at 04, and the announcement on the PA was uniform of the day is full winter PTs. Okay, fine. What is full winter PTs? They never explained that. Now, we found out later that what full winter PTs mean is short sleeve shirt, long sleeve shirt, jacket, shorts, pants, and of course socks and shoes. Did I say jacket? No, if I didn't say jacket, then jacket. Yeah, I said jacket. That is full winter PTs. Hat and gloves are separate. You do have to have the short sleeve shirt under the long sleeve shirt. You do have to have the shorts under the pants. That was never explained to us. They just said uniform of the day is full winter PTs. And again, that's just one example, but it kind of like, that's the mindset of reception, is that they expect you to just know certain things. At the DFAC, there was a procedure, I guess you can call it, or a route you have to take. You have to take your tray, you have to walk down one certain aisle, and then go around, find the next available seat, set your tray down. So if you want to drink, you have your tray first that you got from the line. You go walk that path, set your tray down, and then you keep going around, do a big circle of where you just walked, go back to the drink station, get a drink, go back to your table and set your drink down. If you want the salad bar, after you set your drink down, you can't do two things at once. After you set your drink down, then you get up to walk that circle again, go to the salad bar, walk back around, and then go back to your seat again. You do one thing at a time. So you can't bring your tray to the drink station and get a drink and then bring both there. But they don't tell you that. They yell at you if you don't do it, but they never explained it at the beginning. So that's how a lot of the things went. They didn't teach, they just would correct. And when I say correct, I mean they didn't really yell. There was probably a handful of times, maybe less than 5 times, where I actually heard a drill sergeant raise their voice. It was mostly just, hey, go set that down before you get a drink, or whatever, as an example. But they didn't really yell, which, in one sense, like, you never told us, why are you going to yell at us? Yeah, there was one time in particular that I heard the bay below us, I heard them shouting. I just kept hearing, yes, drill sergeant. I heard the next day that there was some shenanigans going on in the bay below. There was like guys running around naked and stuff like that. And yeah, I heard some screaming going on down there. But so yeah, it's very relaxed and not informative. All this time waiting, all this time sitting on the benches, staring at our stupid white book, blue book. It's called the blue book, and it's not. The pages aren't blue or anything. The pages are white. Covers blue. I don't know. Anyways, this isn't important. We're staring at our book for hours at a time, and like, you'd think that like they could teach us something. Teach us what a left face is. I mean, the private service guys know. Go over the rank structure with us. Have someone stand up and recite the Soldier's Creed or the Army Song. go over PRT, go over what to expect at basic, go over something. Don't have to just sit there the entire time. But the drill sergeants were over there in the corner just on their phones whenever they weren't doing anything. So it's like no one really cared. It was so frustrating because like we had all this time, and some of these privates like really wanted to learn. They were there for basic training, and they were ready to go. They were asking me. So the second week, I'm bouncing around a little bit. So after the prior service guys shipped, which there's a lot of NCOs in the prior service guys, but about half the group I would say was NCO, sergeant, staff sergeant. There's one E7, different platoon than mine, but same group, same company. So one E7 on the male side, and then there's one E7 on the female side. And then there are a total of 4 E6s, including myself, and a bunch of E5s, a bunch of E4s. So then once the prior service guys shipped last Monday, there was 4 of us that got left behind. 3 were medical issues, and then my issue, my admin issue. And then at that point, there was 2 E6s, 1 E5 sergeant, and then an E4. So I was going somewhere with this. Right. The privates that are wanting to learn, like people were coming up to me a lot because I was one of 2 E6s there, and they were asking me a lot of questions about what to expect, how to do certain things. They wanted to learn. They wanted information, and the drill sergeants just didn't care. I don't know if it's just they didn't care, or they were too busy working on people still in processing, or what it was. But it was pretty disappointing to see that. Not that I'm not happy to help. I am. I wish that there was a little bit more structure to that. So rest of the schedule. Saturdays is actually a pretty decent day. I would think, or I would like it more if all the downtime was more like Saturdays, or spread out so that there wasn't so much packed into Saturdays. Because Saturdays, with a lot of class stuff, a lot of PowerPoints, going over SHARP, which is Sexual Harassment and Assaults Response Prevention Program. Yeah, SHARP. A lot of briefings about SHARP. Oh my God, every day we had another lesson on SHARP. But, it's a big deal right now, so it is what it is. So yeah, Saturdays, SHARP, EO, PRT. So we actually did do some PT on Saturdays, but like, that's what I mean. Like, we should have been doing that kind of stuff, like inserting these briefings here and there throughout the week when there's downtime. So I found out day 3, I want to say, which would have been Thursday. Yeah, because I arrived Monday night. So day 1 for me was Tuesday. Day 2 was Wednesday. Day 3 was Thursday. So I found out Thursday I was going home because of my paperwork stuff. So I was hoping that like maybe that day or the next day I'd be getting a flight out, but it wasn't until a week and a half later. It wasn't until the 12th. So I knew I had to be there all weekend for no reason, and then the entire next week for no reason. Which I don't understand why. No one ever explained to me why, but I don't know. Not my place to ask questions, I guess. So when you are in basic, I'm bouncing around a lot here, I apologize, but hopefully you're just wanting to absorb all the information that you can and don't mind this bouncing around so much. If you want a more structured video, then sorry. Maybe I'll make another one and I'll set up a timeline for this. Let's see. So another thing is that you need to have a battle buddy with you at all times. Even prior service, even the E6s, we had to do it. Here's something I didn't really touch on to bounce around again. The E6s, E7s, E5s were not exempt from anything. Now, we were treated a little bit better. They weren't strict with us about like standing at parade rest when we talked to them. And excuse me, about certain things, like they wouldn't make us go on details to go clean the barracks, stuff like that. So as far as like the strict rules, like rules that they had in place for trainees, we had to follow them. However, like extra stuff, I hope this is making sense. For the most part, we had to follow the same rules that all the rest of the trainees had to follow. That's what I'm trying to say. Like we would stand at parade rest when talking to the drill sergeants because we wanted to set a good example. But if we didn't, if we just were like, hey, how's it going, drill sergeant, whatever, like they wouldn't care. They just kind of talk to us like normal people. But we don't want to show that the privates that's acceptable, if that makes sense. So we would try to be just as respectful as the privates were supposed to be. I mean, if we're talking one-on-one with the drill sergeant, which we had to do a few times, then, we'd be more relaxed. But, let's see. As far as phone usage, here we go. Here's one that you guys are probably interested in. Prior service guys, just like the privates, had to turn in their phones the first night. So this was back to day one. When we showed up at the barracks, when I said we got our linens and went to sleep, we also had to turn in our phones. At that point, so we had to put it in this big envelope and write our name and line number, which is just like your order number in your platoon, and put it in these bins. And they locked up the bins, and our phones were taken from us on the first night. So then the prior service guys. So again, the prior service guys were supposed to ship on Monday, or they did ship on Monday, and then the Friday before that Monday. They gave the phones back to the prior service guys. Not the privates, but the prior service guys were allowed to have their phones for the weekend. And then the privates get their phones on their ship day. So if they're shipping on a Monday, they'll probably get their phones like after breakfast. And then they'll have their phones for like an hour. They can only use their phones for like 5 to 10 minutes. At least that's how it is for the shipping briefing that I took part in, because I was helping hand out phones. They were able to use their phones 5 to 10 minutes, and then had to go do other shipping stuff. Some of them like went to the bathroom and were just like hanging out in the stalls using their phones, stuff like that. But don't screw around with that. You have your phone, and don't abuse it, because it'll get taken from you real quick. So, where was I? Yeah, so prior service guys got their phones the Friday before. And so the way it typically is that you're giving your phone before you ship. Even like for the privates, it's only a couple hours before you ship. And then once you get to basic, they'll take them back over there. So